going to destroy the planet, the grids are going to melt, we won't be able to run our fridges, everything's going to break. So let's discuss if that's true. Thankfully, we've got a very well-informed panel here today. Sitting next to me is Michael Hempel, who's VP of Sales at Smart Infrastructure at Siemens. Next to Michael is Rosemary Tan, Managing Director of iCharge Solutions International. And at the far end is Maureen Dashuk, who is Executive Vice President of Integrated Planning at BC Hydro. Very important role. And if you don't mind, Maureen, I'd like to start with you. How many electric vehicles are there in British Columbia, and can you charge them?
Right now, we have less than 200,000 electric vehicles in BC. We're predicting that's going to grow to 900,000 in 2035, so quite a rapid growth. Today, the electricity that we need to power those electric vehicles is about 500 gigawatt hours. I want to put that in context. BC Hydro produces 43,000 gigawatt hours per year. So it's less than 1% of the total demand is currently from electric vehicles.
And also, I mean, I think one of the things I'm sure we'll discuss, but it's not necessarily everyone charges their electric vehicle at peak time and maybe in the early evening when people come home from work. You know, it's spread out over the 24 hours.
Yeah, I think of it sort of like for people who live in the Lower Mainland, if you want to commute into Vancouver from Langley, you pick your times because it's really busy on the highway. There is a certain amount of capacity that the highway has. And the same is true of the electrical system. It only has a certain amount of capacity at any one point in time. So what we're really encouraging people to do is charge overnight. You can actually save money if you charge overnight because we now have a new rate that allows for people to save money by charging at night.
Yeah. And Rosemary, can I ask you, I mean, are there, I think there are, some innovative technologies and different systems that are being developed and that you're working on to help spread that load? If you have it, I think it's on, if you're really near, have it on your chin like that.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah, well, while electric vehicles actually have an insatiable appetite for power, I agree with Maureen that it is also a diverable load.
Yeah.
So there are different strategies that we can deploy to manage load, one of which is dynamic load management, which can optimize the existing power infrastructure, and which means that we have less embedded carbon that we will produce. Let me give you an example. Back in 2020, the Hong Kong Environmental Protection Department actually commissioned iCharge to install 124 chargers across 6 levels in one of the busiest public car park in Causeway Bay, Hong Kong.
Right.
So there's obviously not enough power there. There's not even space in the switch room to expand. So what we do is to deploy our dynamic load management system, and here's how it works. So instead of just merely averaging the load, what we do is our charging station management system will monitor each charger, the charging status, and then if a car A, for example, is up to about 80%, we will shift the load to car B and to car C, which may be in 30 or 50%. And when the minimum threshold is reached, so no more power is available, our system will actually have an automatic queuing, a smart queuing kicks in. So the next driver who comes along will be able to make a choice, whether he or she wants to queue or to find another option. They will be able to see either on the charger itself or on the mobile phone that what's the number in the queue, approximately how long is the wait.
Right.
And if they decided to queue, all they have to do is plug and walk away. They don't have to hang around. The system will automatically start when power is available. That's one strategy that we deployed. And another strategy is like time shifting, it's kind of like Maureen said. Time shifting, so we allow people to book in advance when they want to charge, and if they book an on-peak time, it will be cheaper for them.
Right.
Yes, because at the end of the day, we believe that any charging solution needs to be good for the planet, good for your car, and good for your hip pocket.
Yeah, yeah. No, that sounds amazing. Michael, I mean, so in addition to, we're clearly going to have to invest in upgrading our grids around the world. But in addition to that, what else can we do as kind of electric car drivers to avoid new and expensive power generation? I mean, is that something we can work on and we can help with?
That's a very good question, and this is a question that we at Siemens asked ourselves when we look at our planet Earth, and we only have this one planet Earth. How can we do this, that we have more electricity, more demand for clean energy with less resources? So how can we do more with less? And it comes down to our own behavior change and what are we willing to accept. So we learned already from Maureen and we learned from Rosemary that there are behavior changes, for example, the time of use rate. But it's, I think, simply to accept the fact that we have to think about this, how can we be more careful with our resources, the recyclability of material. I, for example, have an e-car that is completely recyclable, and make sure that we have the recyclability as part of our thought process.
Yeah. I mean, and also, one of the things that I can't help noticing is finally emerging is I know this isn't on the list of things we're talking about, but it is vehicle to grid. And the most recent reports I've heard about school buses in the United States, which are, have a very specific role each day and very specific times that are in use. And they're now using those as grid backup batteries. And it's not one or two buses, it's hundreds. So it's a substantial amount. But that technology, I've been waiting for that technology to become common for about 10 years. I mean, is that something you can see developing in the near future?
Yes, and I think I followed also the panel discussions in other forums like before me. There was a lot of passion and a lot of also willingness to see, could there be a platform, possibly a software platform that we can all sign up for, almost like an Uber model where you say, I want to be part of this platform, and then I allow, for example, the utility to access my batteries on the school buses, my district energy plan, the rooftop solar and the batteries. So yes, this is coming in Europe. We have also pilot projects in Canada, on the East Coast, where this is slowly coming. Nobody has figured it all out, but we are all on a journey.
Yeah. In terms of BC Hydro, though, I mean, do you think? I mean, are you now at the process now of planning on increased demand, or do you think you can manage it without tripling your generating capacity to go up to sort of effectively when you replace the fossil burning fleet of vehicles?
Part of what my job is thinking about what are the energy needs of British Columbia in 2050. And that can be uncertain because it's not just electric vehicles, it's people who are switching to heat pumps and heating their water differently. And it's our industrial customers using different industrial processes that require electricity. So I can tell you that the demand for electricity is increasing and we're seeing an unprecedented level of demand. So a couple of the things that we're doing to be ready for that is we've got our Site C generating facility, and that is going to be starting first power this year. The reservoir is being filled right now, and we have a call for power where we're asking independent power producers to submit proposals for selling energy to BC Hydro. That can be any form of energy. It can be wind and solar, or geothermal, or tidal. It can be anything. We're just looking for those proposals, and we'll be getting those actually next week.
And Rosemary, I mean, I only just discovered just before we started, you're based in Brisbane, which is a town I know very well, which has actually a remarkable amount of clean tech companies.
Yes.
Yes,
we do.
Making various things. Well, I mean, what are there technologies that can actually help us as drivers that you can build into chargers? So I mean, it's the idea of just plugging it in and walking away, and it does stuff that's clever while you're not there. It's very attractive.
Oh, okay. well, as Robert
I mean, if
said,
you want to describe your
Yeah.
your products, that's
I'm from Queensland, Australia. It's also called the Sunshine State. So we actually have a lot of sun. So what we've done, my company has done for in one of the places, is in one of the sports club in Australia, is to prioritize their rooftop solar energy, and it's like a PV battery plus EV charging. So what happened is that we prioritize the power that being generated during the daytime to use it for EV charging first, and then the proceeds from the EV charging actually go into the membership and also improvement of the facilities. On the residential side, I'm not sure if you're aware that Australia, about 25% of the household have rooftop solar.
yeah.
So what we do is previously, unfortunately, the power consumption time and the power generation time may not be the same. So we actually sell our energy back to the grid at about 10 cents per kilowatt hour. But now that electric vehicles and battery comes along, people actually will they can generate the power during the day and store in the car, and at night or during peak hours, which is about 6 p.m. to midnight in Australia, when the electricity is about 30 cents per kilowatt hour, they can use the power within their EVs to power up the house. Obviously, some manufacturers do not like bidirectional chargers, but some does. So that's the case that we use in Australia. Yeah.
I just want to remind you that if anyone has a question for the panel, if you would like to go to the microphone in the central aisle there, we'd be very happy to try and answer it. So, Michael, I mean, it's going to be a combination of us as electric car drivers and the grid systems and the technology we use, and I know that's where Siemens is in that space. And I've seen amazing technologies that the company have developed. I mean, are there additional technologies that can help with EV charging that we haven't mentioned yet?
Robert, I would like to ask everybody to close your eyes and go 150 years back. 150 years back. There's an enormous story of one powerful lady. Her name is Berta Benz. She took her two sons on a tricycle, actually a two-piston carrier couch, and she wanted to prove a case. She started an invention that her husband made, Carl Benz, but he was too scared. So she took this tricycle, two-piston, from Mannheim to Pforzheim, 100 kilometers, and she went on this road, tuck, 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 tuck. And the people were actually ringing the church bells. They were afraid of seeing a first car in Germany driven by a woman. That was unheard of. The car stopped, it had a valve problem. It ran out of petroleum. She had to go into a pharmacy, knock on the door of the pharmacy. Is the pharmacist here? What do you want from me? I need 10 liters of petroleum. Do you want to clean your clothes? No, I need this for my car. For what? She bought 10 liters of petroleum, put this in, and she finished the journey. 150 years later, look at where we are. Societal changes, infrastructure changes. We are all in this time warp, and we are all seeing the changes that are there. So just imagine where we are now in this transformation, this technology transformation, where this is going. This EV industry is so young, just 10 years, 15 years, and we are at the start of a new journey. And the biggest one that I can say is technology is coming, but collaboration, because no one has figured it out alone.
Yeah. There's not one solution to that at all. So you have a question?
Yeah, for Maureen, what do we need to do and how can we get to the point where BC Hydro is ready to turn on a virtual power plant here in BC? I would love to have my car, help the grid and pay for, my battery in my car. I have a vehicle to grid enabled car and, I'd love to power my house and I'd love to be part of the solution. How do we get BC Hydro to get to the point where we say, yeah, this is great, let's do it now?
We are working on those virtual power plant solutions right now, and we will be bringing those forward. We're offering right now a number of different rates and incentives for people. We have the incentive program for
exporting that.
rooftop solar. We have incentives for batteries.
Yeah, well, that's the
we
thing
have
he
new
is, but most
pricing
people aren't.
solutions that we're
Takes a
offering
lot
to people. So I can tell you that they
changing
are
stuff on
in
your
the
house.
works, and you will be seeing that from us.
Redeposit
One of the
to
other
the
things
grid.
that we're really
Yeah.
focusing on is making sure the grid is ready. So my focus is making sure that we have a reliable power system in this province. We're spending $21 billion over the next 10 years just to make sure that the existing assets that we have are reliable and safe. And we're spending another $15 billion to expand and bring that electricity to people's homes and businesses. So that's a huge investment we're making to be ready for that virtual future when we can be sharing electricity amongst ourselves.
I look forward to it, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just a question. Last year I asked this question, and it was about the rates for BC Hydro, the hour, depending on the hour, how much you charge per kilowatt hour. And I know BC Hydro has made that change now, but I put myself in the program, in the new rate that you guys have, but I noticed, I don't know how you guys calculate the step 2 for each home, but I think it should be adjusted somewhat or something. There needs to be some sort of adjustment because, it's very easy to go over that step 2. At least for me. So my home has electric heating, electric water heating, everything is electric except for the cooking. But my car is electric. So if the step 2 is supposed to be looking at the whole neighborhood, I guess where you live, but not every home is the same, right? So is there any ideas in terms of maybe making adjustments in terms of how that's calculated, maybe based on what you have in your home or anything like that?
A couple of thoughts. One is maybe just a bit of background. Why do we have 2 steps? And the intention back in history was if you use the first amount of electricity that used was cheaper. Once you go over a certain amount, it was more. And the intention was to get people to conserve. Now that we're in the world of energy transition, we're saying that's not serving our needs anymore. In fact, we don't want to disincent people to be using more. We want them to be using more if it means they're using less fossil fuels. So if you can see at the back of the room, we've got the BC Hydro group that are there, and they can tell you about the rate offerings that we have. They can look at what you're using in your home and come up with a different rate, including a flat rate so that you just pay one fee, or you can have a time of day rate, which actually incents you to wash your clothes at night, to run your dishwasher at night, and to charge your electric vehicle at night. And all of those things can end up saving you, as a homeowner, $60 or more on your electricity bill.
Thank you. Thank you. And so is your question related to BC Hydro's charging? No.
Unfortunately, yes.
I thought that might be the case, but no, go ahead. It's like you're slightly focused on you, Marie.
Well,
No, please.
yeah, okay. BC Hydro user looking at the overnight rate, the lower overnight rate, which is great. Didn't sign up for it because it penalizes you by adding a cost during the peak rate. It moves that 5 cents. Not really much of an incentive. This is the question, is there any plan to just have a true lower overnight rate?
There's some stuff in there.
I will be honest, I'm not in the rate design group at BC Hydro, but we're open to all feedback on what kinds of rates would be valuable for people. The one thing I will say is we're working really hard to keep our rates as affordable as possible. And people may not know that, but BC, the residents of BC, actually our rate per kilowatt of energy is amongst the lowest in North America. That's something we are really proud of. We think it helps with affordability, it helps with economic development, and it's something we'll continue to work on to not only keep our rates low, but come up with the kinds of rate options that people want. We're open to that feedback.
I would like to comment on this. I am here in this province. I'm originally from Germany, came to Canada, now here, and I have to agree with Maureen and just say how blessed we are to be in this beautiful province, British Columbia, and also enjoy these low electricity prices. I can tell you, in my home, where I'm from, Germany, there is a lot of energy transition, a lot of experiments, but the electricity prices are way higher. So BC Hydro is really smart at new technologies that they're integrating, because exactly as Maureen said, we see UCs requiring affordability, affordable rates, just and reasonable rates, so that we all who live here in this province, we can sleep well in the night, and we are not surprised that all of a sudden there are very, very high rates just because there is a new policy. So I'm just wanting to also say that how blessed we are to be in this province with this low rate electricity rate.
Yes. Just one moment. Because I mean, one of the things that I think it's very obvious here at the audience here, the people who come to this show are fairly savvy about electricity, about grids, about their electric vehicles. They're kind of probably not representing the average. And one of the things I think we need is a technology, for instance, the understanding of different tariffs, different times of day usage. You kind of want to automate that as much as you possibly can, so that we have a fridge that really cools things down when electricity is cheap and winds its neck in when it's expensive, and a washing, all those things, they can all exist. And I certainly have chargers where I plug the car and it doesn't charge until 12:30 at night. I don't switch it on or do anything, it just does that. And that's a kind of technological solution.
Absolutely. I mean, Chris O'Reilly said this yesterday. I'm not sure who was here yesterday. He said very clearly, we cannot build our way out of the electrification. We have to do things differently. And this applies to all of us. Like, what are we willing to do? It's so Diane Stevens said, the change starts with us. Are we willing to do some behavioral changes on ourselves and then accept, okay, well, I can charge my EV maybe in the night, and maybe I don't do this over peak hours, and then I allow BC Hydro to use my excess electricity maybe for the neighborhood. These kind of models are coming, but we need to allow this to happen.
So, please.
Yeah, in context of excesses and adjustments, are there efforts underway to think of the grid in a more global sense, moving across borders, whether it's provincial or international, even with neighbors to the south?
That's an excellent question. We have interties between our province and Alberta, and an intertie that takes us down into the United States. So a lot of the benefits that we have in British Columbia, we have reservoirs, and the reservoirs are the biggest batteries you can imagine. Those batteries store all of the sun, the solar energy, they store all of the wind, and we can use that whenever we need it. So those interties really help us to import solar from California and Nevada, and to import the wind and to store that in our system. So there is very, very much, it's an international grid that we have. Each province operates independently, but we work very closely together, and there's a regulatory body that oversees all of that to make sure that we're all operating the grid safely and reliably.
In fact, there's a cable that is now joining the UK to Germany, so it's been recently commissioned, I think.
Yes, but I want to also respond to this gentleman. I fully agree with you. It's in addition to the interconnection, I think we also have to think differently. We have BC ferries coming on board with 4 or 5 battery electric ferries. They need a lot of power. We had the colleagues from Seaplane. They need power to wherever the charges are. We have the Vancouver Airport, we have TransLink. So we have to think holistically for this province, how can we do this on a platform? And yes, we are thinking about this. Nobody has a final solution, but I can tell you, sir, that this is exactly what we're doing in Europe. This is exactly what we're doing in other jurisdictions, because the problems are the same for each utility worldwide. And as I said, it's a journey, and we have to do things differently.
I can't help adding that we do use quite a lot of electricity to refine crude oil. So I'm just thinking, if we wind that down a bit, there might be a little extra to charge our cars and run our fridges. It's a cheap point, but I couldn't help it. Yes, sir.
It's very true.
Something that I think Michael and Maureen might be able to address that I don't think a lot of people understand is the cost of the energy that they're getting at their home isn't really the cost of the electricity so much as it is the balance of plant issues, the transmission facilities from where the power is made, at the hydro dams or whatever, to the places that it's used. Maybe talk a little bit about how that price breaks down, because I don't think that is well understood, and it affects how we think about the electricity we use. Thank you.
And that's certainly a thing we get. We in the UK, we have part of our bill is the transmission cost. Effectively, it's kind of separated in the bill. You know, there is
Same in Australia.
Yeah,
there's a distribution cost.
Yeah.
So the British BC Hydro is what we call a vertically integrated utility. What does that mean? It means that we generate the power, we take it from where it's generated and transmit it over long distances, those are big 500 kV lines that you see when you're driving on the highway, and then we distribute it, we bring it right to your home. When you pay your bill, you pay one fee, and it includes everything. But what you're hearing is in other parts of the world, you actually get one bill for the distribution part, and you get one bill for the generation part, and so it's all blended together. Now, clearly, as the person who leads the group that's planning, I plan for all three of those, generation, transmission, and distribution, and we're investing in all three of those areas. But in terms of breaking it out, we don't break it out on your bill, but it is all in one price.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you. We've got room for one more question. Through.
Not great at public speaking, but I wrote some stuff down to try and guide them through this. Prefacing that load is going up, I realize that for sure. Grid infrastructure utilization has significant inefficiencies. Generally, it is designed for future peak load moments. How much of future investment is expected to move to grid batteries from transmission infrastructure, and can you frame the expected rate of battery uptake? Also thinking loads shedding considerations from location agnostic loads such as compute facilities, which would be
In less than 10 seconds.
Yes. Really complicated question. I mean, I just want to quickly say that some of the big grid batteries we're putting in the UK are finally having, it's taken years, but they're finally having a really profound impact, particularly for big vehicle charging hubs, where you do have 40 or 50 rapid chargers. The buffer that supports between the grid and
So I can maybe just say that in BC, because we have these reservoirs, they are the biggest batteries in the world.
Yeah.
And so our reliance on utility scale batteries that others may rely on, because they have a lot more intermittent generation resources like wind and solar, we don't have that because we're just storing all that intermittent energy in our reservoirs. Now we do have a really important need for batteries though, and that's in areas that are at the end of a long line, where that, if the line goes out, it has an impact on the community. So we're looking at putting batteries in those communities to provide reliability to those communities. And also it will help us to reduce our overall investment. So instead of building a new transmission line, which can be very expensive and can have a very detrimental impact on the environment, we're looking at where we can place some batteries. So right now we're in the process of doing a number of pilots to see what are the best use cases for batteries in BC.
You got one? Do you want to make one more comment?
Yeah, yes, I would like to respond to this gentleman, because the question behind your question is really the efficiencies and are we efficient in the way we do things. So I can tell you that on the technology side, we are going to introduce much more software models. We just did this at Secret in Paris. It's a power systems conference where we introduced software to use the existing lines and get 30% more efficiencies out of existing lines, so that we don't have to do this, what Maureen was alluding to, more transmission lines. So get more out of what we have, do more with less.
We have definitely gone over our allotted time, and also we're very near the end of the day here at Everything Electric. So I would just like to suggest we thank our really brilliant panel for today. Thank you so much for coming along here as well. Thank you.